Recording in progress.
Good evening. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025. It's 5:30 p.m. And first on the agenda, item A is Brian McCain, Chief of Staff, 5-minute presentation.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to add on to last week's numbers for the cleanup efforts. I talked to our municipal court team that runs the community service program, and just that team alone this year has picked up 587 tons of garbage, or roughly 1.2 million pounds of garbage, and that doesn't include our team up to clean up, Catholic Charities, DICE, or code enforcement. So just one of our departments, 1.2 million pounds of trash picked up this year. Excuse me. PD Weekly Stats. I'm going to give an update. This was sent to council earlier today, but wanted to repeat it here. So we've had just this week from the 17th through the 23rd, PD had 1,508 calls for service, of which 1,177 were dispatched and 331 were self-initiated. If you average this out over those 7 days, it equals roughly 9 calls an hour, 24/7. They had 427 loitering citations, 15 loitering by minors after curfew, and 30 for curfew in parks after hours. The Direct Investigation Community Engagement Unit, or DICE unit, as you hear us call them, helps combat lower-level crimes such as loitering, trespass, suspicious persons, theft from merchant, and works to provide resources to unhoused individuals that they encounter. They work to conduct proactive policing, also known as community-oriented policing, in the areas that statistically see a higher volume of lower-level crime and answer calls for service that align with their mission. Just those 7 days, they had 26 calls for service, 12 community-oriented policing calls, and issued 19 citations, 3 trespass notices, and 4 outside arrest warrants. The Still City Arkansas River Festival, if you missed it this weekend, it was a success, or SCARF as we call it. This weekend was a huge success with nearly 1,500 people in attendance at Waterworks Park and Pillar Park at the levee. We had 17 surfers that competed, 5 teams for Build Your Own Boat Race, nearly 100 participants for the paddle and bike parade. Additionally, 125 ducks were sold for the rubber duck race, which raised over $600 for youth scholarships for Parks and Rec programs. Join us this Thursday. It's the Pueblo Parks and Rec Colorado Lottery. Visit Pueblo and the Greater Pueblo Chamber of Commerce for the ribbon cutting and grand reopening of the slabs at Elizabeth Street Parkway on Thursday, July 31st at 1 p.m. Again, this Thursday. You can attend. There will be games, ice cream, skill challenges, prizes, and more. So we hope to see everybody out there, and you can check out the new artwork on the slabs. And that concludes my update.
Council Flores, you have anything?
Oh, no.
Okay, any other comments from council in reference to that? Okay, let's go to agenda item B. We have the Pueblo Master Drainage Plan, State Fair in Bessemer. It's a neighborhood basin. We have Noah, I can't read it, Stamp Drainage Engineer, and then we have Melissa Bryant, the PE Project Manager. Make sure you turn the mics on, guys. And thanks for coming.
Good evening.
Thanks for having us. Evening, councilors, Madam Mayor. We're here to present the Phase 1 of the Pueblo Master Drainage Plan for the State Fair and Bessemer Neighborhood Basin. We'll kick off with introductions. My name's Noah Stam. I work for the Stormwater Department. I'm the Stormwater Coordinator.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Melissa Bryant. I'm with Respec Engineering. I'm their Senior Project Manager for the Master Drainage Plan.
Good evening. I'm Kurt Patrick. I'm the new Stormwater Director.
Okay. So tonight, we just want to give you an update on the project and talk about some of the goals that we have, the approach that we've been taking, and some of the challenges that we've encountered. I'll go over a project schedule for everyone, and then talk about some of the Phase 1 deliverables that we have already developed and put together a report for Noah and the team, and then look at next steps, and then see if you guys have any questions for us. So our goal is to do a hydrologic and hydraulic analysis, and so we're looking at the flow of the water over the land, but also within your stormwater infrastructure. What we want to do is identify how the stormwater system is currently managing or conveying the stormwater, find opportunities on where we can improve, and identify how we can reduce some of the localized flooding that you're seeing. As you all know, some of the biggest challenges are the topography. Pueblo is very flat, and so we're working with the topography that we have here within the city. We also are limited on the amount of right-of-way that we have. The areas that we're looking at are fully developed communities. So with our approach, we did model the existing system. We looked at opportunities on how we can upsize the infrastructure, whether it's separating outfalls or potentially even looking at infrastructure relocations. And then we are looking at some green infrastructure opportunities, places where we can look at potential stormwater parks or something that can provide and alleviate some of the water flowing down by providing some detention. So from the schedule, you can see that we started in November, and this was somewhat of a challenge because we did look at the city's GIS data, and that actually required some survey work that needed to be done in order to verify some of the materials of the pipes that are used, but also to be able to take some elevation and contour information for the infrastructure. And so that kind of pushed us a little bit with some of the delays from winter just because of the snow and the ice and being able to even lift some of the manhole lids. But we are complete with the phase one, the baseline hydrology and hydraulics, and we are currently looking at alternatives analysis. And actually, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, we presented some alternatives analysis and walk through that. And so we're hoping that we can get back on schedule and have that available by August, September timeframe, with still of a goal to try to wrap it up with a conceptual design by the end of the year and maybe come back to you guys January, February timeframe. So with the phase one, what we did was a baseline hydrology and hydraulics, and the pretty picture here, what you see is actually a digital elevation model where we identified the surface flow paths. What we used was the Colorado Water Conservation Board information of a 3 square foot cell size. That's a mouthful, but this helped us to develop the subcatchment basins. And what you can see here is the multicolored areas are the actual watershed delineations based on the surface flow patterns. It's the longest flow path. We looked at soils, we looked at percent imperviousness, we looked at Horton's infiltration, and also looked at the NOAA Atlas 14 data for rainfall for a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, 25-year, and 100-year storm event. And so based on the delineations here, you can see the northern blue portion to the left is the summit, the Carteret is what's identified in the red, and then the route is more of the yellow area to the far right. As I mentioned before, we took a lot of the GIS data that the city already had. We did, as I said, take some survey, but again, looking at the manholes, the pipes, the outfalls, the pump stations, and just developing a comprehensive hydraulic analysis of the entire stormwater infrastructure. We did conduct a stormwater management model analysis, and this is what we refer to as SWIM. And so we did look at the CUHP, which is the Colorado Urban Unit Hydraulic Program. And again, that's where we look at all those little details that feed into the model, which is the imperviousness, the soils, to determine how water is going to be flowing over the system and within your pipes.
Melissa, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Would you give a definition in reference to stormwater outfalls and what you mean by that?
So the stormwater outfalls that we're looking at would be like where your water is outfalling into the river, where it's outfalling, for example, at the State Fair property, like you have some huge outfalls, and I think I have a picture later on of one of the outfalls, so it would be those locations.
So the outfalls from the State Fair are coming towards the Bessemer area, is that how it works?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And you can kind of see from the PowerPoint, the arrows that you see is kind of where it's starting to outfall. So one of the things that we looked at was a two-dimensional integrated swim analysis. And so what you see here is that light blue area is all the flooding that is happening within the city. And so what we found is that 79% of the pipes are undersized in this area. And that's where we come to the next phase of trying to identify some alternative analysis on how we can approach either alleviating some of those overflows or increasing the size of the infrastructure. So next steps would be phase 2, as I mentioned, the alternatives analysis. And what we plan to do is make 3 recommendations for improvements. With those improvements, and what we did is we kind of provided Noah a list of things that we would recommend, and then we'll pick the top 3 and then develop the feasibility costs according to the top 3 that we select. And then moving forward, we'll develop some conceptual designs, so 3 conceptual designs, and then the cost estimates for each of the designs to continue to move forward. And I guess that was, I missed it, but if you look back the other way, there's an outfall there and there's an outfall further up in this area.
Yeah, so this picture here is actually at the State Fair. It's their kind of pond on the very southern part of their property, and then it outfalls into what we call our summit system, and that's where we're seeing a lot of flooding, actually, so.
But just wanted to give you a brief overview and update on what's been going on with the master drainage plan, and with that, any additional questions?
Councilor, sorry I didn't catch that. Councilor Maestri, you have something?
So you guys are just presenting today to let us know, because there's always been questions about what's happening down there at the State Fairgrounds and Bessemer and so forth, that you guys are working on it and that you're working towards a new design that's going to hopefully move the water through and past there without all the damage that it has been causing in the past. Do you have a timeline?
So by the end of this year, we're hoping that we can develop the conceptual designs for that, so that the city can move forward and determine which options, or if you guys want to move forward with all the options, to continue into the design phase and then construction.
Are you coming forward, do you have this project in your budget? You do, okay, good. So it's not, you're not preparing us for an ask or anything, you're just letting us know how you're moving forward. Okay.
Yeah, so phase 2 and phase 3 we'll get a cost estimate to determine if we have budget, but we have been saving funds to do a project to reduce the flooding in this area. I
Okay.
believe we have about $6 million saved up at the current time.
Okay.
What about the extensive flooding that goes under the 29th Street Bridge? Have you guys come up with something for that?
Are you
or-
referring to our pump station out there
No.
by the mall, kind of?
Oh, is that the mall?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yes, it is by the mall, but is the pump station, does that have something to do with the flooding there? Okay,
Yeah, that's a different project. This is the State Fair Bessemer stuff, but we are working on our pump station right now. There were some repairs to the pump out there to pump that water out there at that crossing.
okay.
Councilor Martinez.
So I understand that you'll be proposing a couple of design options. As someone who's not familiar at all with stormwater, are you gonna be redesigning the pipes and the pipe sizes, or like where they drop out, like the basins? What does that look like?
Yeah, so some of the options that we've started looking at, or alternatives we've started looking at, is certainly upsizing some of the pipes to be able to at least handle like your 10-year storm event, because those are you have your 5 and your 10, and those are your more frequent storm events that you see. The 100 years that big catastrophic, but your infrastructure just cannot support that without doing, I believe, what did we say, like 60-foot barrels or something? Like it's an astronomical increase in infrastructure. But for your smaller events, your 5 and 10-year storm events, what we're hoping to do is identify where we can increase your pipe sizing, but also there may be opportunities where we can disconnect some of the systems, like maybe we disconnect the Summit from the Carteret, and
What are those words?
let me go back this.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea to show them that. This way.
Thought it was. Can we go back?
Can you guys go back a couple slides?
So where I showed the basin delineations, and you kind of had 3 main delineations, it was based on the flows that are going into those areas. So your Summit is your northernmost location, but it flows into the Carteret.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so we're trying to see if we can disconnect it, and that's where maybe we find opportunities for like great infrastructure and looking at an existing parkway, ball fields, to maybe do a stormwater park so you can hold some water there and it can be multifunctional, multi-purposed. So when it's not raining, you can use it as a ball field or park facility, but when it is storming, then it serves as detention for that
Interesting.
storm event, yeah.
Cool.
And so that's where we say disconnecting and relocating outfalls. Yeah, and so we would look at those components for each of the systems.
This summer, I feel like our stormwater system has totally been tested because of the amount of heavy rain that we get at once. Normally, I feel like it rains really heavy only a couple of times, but gosh, it feels like almost every afternoon now, there's like 45 minutes of just torrential downpour, particularly kind of in my neighborhood. Even last week, we were at the fair when it just downpoured, and you could see that the fair would start, there was a lot of standing water. And so I'm glad to hear that you guys are at least, planning and working on it, because it's crazy this summer. So with the design being concluded, it'll be proposed to us, start of next year. Feasibly, what would be the timeline then from completed construction, no issues with stormwater? What does that look like?
So the design portion that's going to be, the design portion that's in respec scope is about a 30% design. So kind of a concept level showing us where we might have fatal flaws in our system. And, so that's going to be the level of design that they put forth to us. And then from there, we'll need to put out an additional RFP to finish the design and go all the way to construction drawings. So that could be, depending on the level of design and the level of effort, another 6 months to a year, potentially, depending on how involved it is and how much work that design is. So it could be potentially beginning of 2027 before we actually have construction drawings ready to go to put a project out to bid.
And that's just construction, not even starting construction yet.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, one second, I'm going to take privilege on this real quick, because this is, you mentioned the word Bessemer. I'm just curious, when I studied this, and I'm not talking about the entire city, I'm talking about my district-specific stuff. When I went and was trying to educate myself, there's supposed to be, from that outfall from the Colorado, if I got this right, from the Colorado State Fair into Bessemer, there's a wraparound underground, at the time in 1930s, system that was underneath the ground that was crumbling. And then it supposedly worked its way out east. Am I right? Now, I just want to curious, in reference to that size, I think it was 12 inches. So, from what I understand, and I couldn't go, I don't know what the video is to find this, if in fact they did replace it, I'm understanding they replaced it with the same size. That's a flaw. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Now, I think most municipalities, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, I'm not a scientist, I'm not an engineer, but they're going as high as 48 to 72 inches on their pipe. You could drive a car through the damn thing, right? So basically what we've got, we replaced it with 12-inch, and we just found a better way to drown ourselves. I mean, if you look at what I'm talking about, you have a lot of homes throughout the old neighborhood of Bessemer. I'm talking from Cedar to Abriendo, and that convoluted system was underneath the ground. And I guess it was designed that way to slow it down, I guess, before it went out. That's the only thing. But that system was replaced with the same thing. You have a lot of people that their foundations are going to hell in a handbasket. I live right on the corner of that, Norman. I'm not just calling for myself, I'm telling you for the neighborhood. Okay, Lake Avenue seems to be the appropriate name. It's bad. And I'm not blaming you guys. I don't think there's any intent not to do this. But do we have video, if you show progress and you tell us you've done something, like when they had Northern Avenue uncovered? Okay, you could easily see what was being done. What was it? Once you get it covered, I don't know how you go out and verify it, okay? And that's what I'm wondering. Do you do that? Do you look at the sizes that you're going to up to and you've made a decision already? Do you know what those are?
I don't think we've made a decision on that yet.
No.
The hydraulic analysis is a portion of that, and that's where that conceptual design kind of comes into play. But yeah, we will be looking at the flows that go in to make sure we're not undersizing. I think as Melissa said, 79% of the pipes in the area are undersized. So we will be going back with something that's more appropriately sized to help prevent the flooding.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too dramatic because I know that stormwater, when you think about it's stormwater. Well, stormwater can back up and pick up metals, can pick up all kinds of crap in the water, and everybody knows it. It's a big health issue, I think, for Bessemer. You know, I have a neighbor one day, and next day they're gone, and it's some kind of infectious disease. I can't prove that, but in our neighborhood, we have a lot of kids. They play in that water. I mean, I'd almost be tempted to jump in there. But again, I'm not saying there's any intent for people not to try to do the right thing. If it comes down to money, that might be an issue. I don't know, but I'm not blaming anybody, okay? Thank you. Sorry. Councilor Flores.
I'm on slide 9, according to our deal, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Lake Minnequaw. And, as I understand, if you go up to the west, it would be the southwest corner of, before El Camino, you've got streets like Sheffield and Faribault. That whole neighborhood was designed without storm sewer, and that's why you see all the dips in the road. And those dips were intended to channel the water to Lake Minnequaw, as I understand. And I really believe that Lake Minnequaw holds a lot of promise to act as one of these ponds that you're talking about, but it needs a lot of work. Lake Minnequaw has silt so deep that you could stand in the middle of the lake and your head's still above water, along with all the weeds and the reeds that are growing. If you look at Lake Minnequaw 20 years ago and you look at it now, it's like, from a sky view, it's like half the size. But I noticed in that slide 9, you have a lot of purple lines there. Let me bring it up. I lost it here. Hold on a second. I noticed that there's a distinct line directly to Lake Minnequaw, and I'm trying to see if I can see the street.
By Lakeview? Is that the one?
Lakeview,
Yeah.
yes, by Lakeview, but it goes up deeper to the north, all the way up to almost Bay State. Well, it keeps going up, but could you explain what that purple line is and why it's going into Lake Minnequaw?
Yeah, so that's just the model showing where the infrastructure is. It's just showing us that there's a pipe going through there.
Okay.
Is what the purple represents.
So we currently have a drainage line that goes into Lake Minnequaw.
It's actually the outfall that comes from Lake Minnequaw that enters this system.
Oh, it enters, okay. That's interesting. The other thing is, if you look at all the FEMA flood maps, Pueblo is like 98% outside the 100-year flood area. It used to be that the Lower East Side and before the levee system. So I thought I heard you say that a lot of these areas around the State Fair can handle events up to 5 or 10.
No.
No, maybe I misunderstood.
We're looking at the 5-year, the 10-year, the 25, and the 100.
Okay.
We're looking at those storm events to see how they model and determine where the best improvements can be made, or I should say the feasible improvements can be made to alleviate those storm events, which are the most frequent ones that you're seeing.
If you determine that ponds are necessary, how do you go about identifying where you could place those? I mean, we're talking about residential areas that are
Right.
completely filled in.
Yeah,
And-
so that was one of the challenges we saw, was the limited amount of right-of-way, and then also that the community is completely developed. But what you can see in this area, you can see the lines where it's pointing down, and so while we have Lake Minnequaw, that's great, but everything's flowing down into the river. And so these are the areas where we're trying to find more of the opportunities for stormwater detention. So what we looked at is existing park facilities that the city may have, where that's where we can do the multi-beneficial type project, where it can act as a park facility during normal ambient conditions, and then during storm events, it would be a stormwater park.
And just to be sure, going back to that purple line out of Lake Minnequaw, you're saying the water is going out of the lake?
It's going, yeah, going towards the river.
So if you were to go in there and remove the silt, you think you would lower the ability for the lake to rise, to go outflow? We don't need any more outflow. Why not look at that as a partial solution in removing the silt from the lake and making it deeper? And then the other thing is, what is CDOT doing to one of the heaviest areas that's flood all the time, and that's the Macaulay, it used to be called Central Avenue Freeway? I mean, that, in any kind of event where you have a lot of rain, that area looks like a lake. And that area that I'm talking about is Interstate 25, which is the responsibility of the state of Colorado. It seems like there's an opportunity there to pick up some of the cost through CDOT. And they haven't really done much to change that. I mean, they talk about it a lot, and when it rains a lot, it just turns into a lake again, and nothing's really being done. Those just are two opportunities I see. And, but I know you're at the beginning, kind of the beginning, but just think about those two items. Thank you.
Councilor Regina Maestri.
How is, so in the redesign, how will that affect the new paving of Northern?
I think
Developing the cost estimates, is there an opportunity where you have existing, whether it's water, wastewater, or roadway work, where it's going to be major, like roadway infrastructure being replaced? Like, those are the opportunities to go in and also address the stormwater system, if possible.
Yeah, but we just upgraded, Prairie, is Prairie going to be affected? We've just upgraded those roads, and we're now redesigning the stormwater system. So I'm just wondering if any of those in the redesign is going to affect any of those new roads that we've just done.
Recording in progress.
it shouldn't. Most of the systems we're looking at run down Summit Avenue, Carteret, and Route. So we haven't had any major road improvements there. We might have to cross Northern and Abriendo once or twice, but we shouldn't be in those streets too much.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah. Real quick, let me just get this question. In reference to chronological progress that you're going to make, because it's all over the city. I mean, I know you guys are dealing with a lot. Do you have a plan in reference to what you're going to attack first, which area first, in reference to maybe length of time, how long it's been on, the problems and ongoing? What plan do you have for that?
I don't know that we necessarily have a plan yet. I think we'll kind of flesh some of that out with the alternatives analysis portion of it. And that conceptual design will really tell us a lot about where we need to go and how much it's going to actually cost. And then we'll be able to start chunking off those pieces, and hopefully with, you know, $6 million, we can tackle a large portion of the project. But until we get that conceptual design, we won't really know. But I think this entire area has been flooding for a long time, so.
Any estimates on when you think you'll be coming back in front of us, hopefully, and give us an update?
Probably towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, we'll have those conceptual designs, and we could potentially, once we get some alternatives out there, come back and talk to you about some of the alternatives as well.
All right, Council Maestri. I'm sorry, Council Flores.
I had another question I forgot, and I apologize, but what is the condition of the Bessemer irrigation ditch itself, and that ditch company's ability to maintain that ditch, I guess? I am hearing complaints about breaches all along the Bessemer ditch, up a little bit higher. It just seems like there's more breaches up around the golf course and coming through, but it appears that they're probably, if that's not being maintained, you got the same problem on Bay State along the Bessemer ditch. What, are you looking at that too?
So the Bessemer ditch was outside of RESPEC's scope. We're
Okay.
kind of looking at the systems that you're seeing here on going down Summit, Route, and Carteret. But there's a large portion of this neighborhood that does drain to the Bessemer ditch.
And you probably, the three of you probably know about the necessity to put a lift station from our industrial park, St. Charles Industrial Park, that'll go right through, I think, Bessemer. I mean, it's going to be quite a project. Will you be recommending lift stations too in other areas, or is that not part of the plan?
I don't know that that's something
Yeah.
that we've identified. I think everything
It's
currently
pretty flat.
flows, down towards the river at this point. I don't think the lift stations are really a necessity, right? With what we're
At this
looking at in this area, but.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you have, one question. Do you have, excuse me, Joe, do you have any idea in which areas are probably top priority or most critical at this juncture right now? Do you know?
I think that picture, and it was in the slide with the 2D model that showed the blue portion, and that's really showing the flooding and highlighting the areas that are flooding. So you can see all of that blue is surface flooding. So I would consider anything with that blue highlight to be kind of critical areas.
You know the neighborhoods by heart? Do you know what neighborhood you're talking about?
Yeah, so I guess to answer your question, it'd be kind of near the State Fair, right there on Beulah Avenue is one area that we're definitely gonna be looking at. Right by the interstate off of McCauley, where you guys were talking about earlier, and then just all the rest of the flooding as well.
Is there such a thing as the Runyon Lakes and CF&I ponds that water drains into, or am I just had a dream about that? I'm just curious, have you heard that before? Is that where it runs when it goes east? It's going into that?
I think currently everything outfalls to the river, right? It
Right.
outfalls to the Arkansas.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't go through it, okay, I was just curious. Okay, Counselor Latino.
You talked a bit about the Fountain Creek, right? Between 8th and 4th. What are your plans for that area? Because I have concerns about that area.
So that's outside this project scope. This is the outfall into the Arkansas River for the Bessemer State Fair stuff. We haven't been looking in that area yet.
Okay. And then and Mr. Gomez, Councilman Gomez alluded to the Runyon Lake. So what goes on there? I mean, I'm familiar with, that's my area too, so I'm familiar, what are we talking about there? Is there anything going on there as it relates to the question that he asked that you can expand on?
Runyon Lake is also outside of the study area that we're looking at in this presentation.
I think currently all the pipe networks and all the systems outflow basically to one location, and that currently goes to the river.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions by council? Well, guys, thanks for showing up with the update, we appreciate it. You'll be coming back, I'm sure. Thank you, folks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, item C, is the speed enforcement camera presentation. That's going to be Deputy Chief Kenny Ryder and Sergeant Michael Sensenbach, Traffic. You have a 15-minute presentation and then questions and answers. Thank you. Make sure you put your mics on when you get up there.
Good evening, council. Good evening, Mayor Graham.
Good evening, council. I'm Sergeant Centerbox from the Pueblo Police Department Traffic Division. Sounding like we're having some technical issues. My presentation is based solely on PowerPoint in my presentation, so this may be something we may need to. Yeah, I kind of need to look at it.
Vince, do you have PowerPoint on your laptop? Do you have PowerPoint on your laptop? Do you have PowerPoint? Okay, I apologize. This is going to be a little bit different than what I had originally anticipated. But as many of you know, I'm Sergeant Michael Centerbox from the Pueblo PD Traffic Division. My position focuses on traffic enforcement, roadway safety within the city of Pueblo. With recent legislative changes, we have an opportunity to increase our roadway safety by utilizing more technology. This state of Colorado, in conjunction with CDOT and NHTSA, adopted the Vision Zero initiative, which that changes, the ultimate goal is to reduce the number of traffic fatalities to zero. Oh, I apologize. You'll hear me refer to traffic accidents as crashes because crashes are preventable, accidents are an act. So that's the approach. The approach is also the utilization of technology to reduce speeds to increase safety on the roadway. Here's a map that Pueblo County initiated. As you can see, these are between 2016 and 2023. This is zoomed in within the city limits of Pueblo, so you can see there really isn't
Recording in progress.
streets that are not affected by traffic crashes.
between 2019 and 2024, there have been 99 fatal crashes here in the city of Pueblo. 40% of those were speed involved as a factor in the crash. So with nearly half of the crashes, fatal crashes within the city, what can the Pueblo Police Department do and the city of Pueblo do to lower speeds to change driving behavior so that our population isn't using our roadways as a racetrack? So one way to do that is automated vehicle identification or speed cameras. So these are two examples of speed cameras. The one on the right is a permanent mount or long-term mount, I should use. So these are put up for an extended period of time on different roadways. The one on the left is a pedestal camera. Those are generally put up between 30 and 60 days. They both do the exact same thing. The biggest thing about the automated vehicle identification, this cannot be used and can't be referenced as any type of revenue source. This is a means to change driving behavior and make our streets safer, not to make money for the city. Each of these cameras actually have different placements. So you would put the permanent placement on your larger roadways, where the smaller camera would be used on residential areas, construction zones, school zones, and things of that nature. So where can we put these? So Senate Bill 23200, that is what allows for automated vehicle identification for speed enforcement. The bill was updated in June of 2024 and outlined where we can actually place these cameras between residential, school, construction zones, roadways adjacent to city parks. It also addressed traffic safety corridors. So the traffic safety corridor is the main reason why we're here tonight. So what is a traffic safety corridor? That is pretty much any other roadway that doesn't fall within residential, school zone, construction zone with a speed limit above 35 miles an hour. That is strictly outlined in the Senate bill and under statute. The city of Pueblo can designate a roadway a traffic safety corridor. There is guidelines on how you do that within the statute. Once the corridor is designated, then we can utilize the AFIS system on that. If it is a state highway, we go through CDOT. There's a permitting process that we'd have to go through CDOT with, which I've already spoken to them a lot about this, and they're 100% on board. So that helps. Why do we need the safety corridors? The city of Pueblo has over 1,000 miles of public roadway. We have one interstate highway and 6 state highways within the city limits. The state highways are our biggest factor when it comes to speed. Residential streets are generally narrower. The wider roadways, such as Northern, Pueblo Boulevard, things of that nature, generally have higher speeds. The police department, the traffic division has a total of 5 officers and 1 supervisor to patrol all that. Even though all officers have the ability to go out and conduct speed enforcement, they're all trained in it. There's only 5 of us dedicated to traffic safety. What do we need to do to designate these traffic safety corridors? The state outlined it and things that we would need. Now, out of these, we only need one of the following: incidents of crashes, incidents of reckless driving, citations issued, and community complaints. You only need to demonstrate one where you're showing there's a speed problem. I've outlined all of them. And I'm not going to go through all the statistics, but you have to go within a 5-year period of current. Over the last 5 years, there's been almost 1,500 crashes on Northern Avenue alone. If you want to average that out, that's approximately 1 a day. I can't tell which ones are speed related, but you can go. Our highest number of crashes are going to be on state highways: 78, 45, 96, and 50. Citations on Northern Avenue alone, almost 1,100 were just for speeding in 5 years. That doesn't go into the reckless driving, And as many of you know, and some of you have actually contacted me or the chief directly, I don't think any of you, your constituents, have not talked to you about a traffic complaint or a speed complaint in your district. So that is definitely an issue within the city. So what I did was, with the help of our traffic engineers, public works, command staff, I broke this into 2 tiers for the proposed corridors. If you'll notice, all of Tier 1 is our state highways. These are the main factors with the highest level of importance and extreme speeding. I'm not going to read every one. The corridor is to the left, and you have to designate to and from. So if you were to go, Dillon Drive is an issue, and all the way down. The Tier 2 are your secondary. The secondary ones, they have a less importance, there's less of issues there, but they are still quality of life issues for everybody in those areas, especially on Abriendo, Main, Union, Lake. The one area where I need to get more data, but it's closed right now, and I'm very fearful of what's gonna happen as soon as they open 24th. 24th from Pueblo Boulevard to Tuxedo is going to turn into a racetrack, and then Tuxedo to 18th Street is going to continue that racetrack. There's a wide road, and I received complaints prior to them closing it for the expansion construction, almost on a weekly basis from people that live in that area. So that is actually on there as well. But right now, with it being closed, the data is not there. That's why it is on Tier 2. This is what the map looks like. The red would be the Tier 1s, the blue would be Tier 2. There is nothing saying that the council cannot say, we just want to adopt all of them, and I'm open to suggestion from you all of places you would like to, keeping in mind that residential streets, we can already do this program on with council's approval. We don't need to designate those. So your Bessemer area, Belmont area, you know, those areas that are already deemed residential, we can already do that, school zones, construction zones. It's only for the ones where we would have to designate as a traffic safety corridor. CDOT process is, it took them a long time to get their legal to make an outline. A quick lowdown of their process is, like I said, I've already talked to the District 2 engineers. They're all on board. So that part's done. Application, data collection, submission, and coordination with Colorado State Patrol. That is outlined in the Senate bill. It is their roadway. I've talked to the Major Lyons with our District 2, and he said anything you can do to slow speeds down, I'm game on. So so we've already kind of jumped that hurdle. CDOT also, with their legal department, their main factor on there is that the municipality is responsible for the cost of it. And I just broke it down into a nutshell, but CDOT saying, we're not going to pay for it, but, you know, we'll help you get it done to do it as far as what the law states. Citation process is pretty simple. Go back. So violations captured, the violations confirmed by the police department, and citations sent to the registered owner of that vehicle. Fines are set by statute. It's $40 for the speeding fine and $80 for anything doubled where it's a construction zone or school zone. Anything violations 25 miles an hour over the posted speed limit requires personal service, and it's a misdemeanor traffic offense, and it requires a mandatory court appearance. That's handled through the municipal court process. The fines on that are not stipulated because that would be whatever municipal court deems. It's not, you're not limited on what they do because it is a misdemeanor. The personal service would have to be taken care of by a member of the police department. Disputed citations are handled per the statute and within municipal court. So a lot of people will come up and say, well, my daughter borrowed my car, she was the one speeding, I wasn't the one driving. That process is actually handled within the court. and within statute and within the Senate bill, what they would have to do to say that they want the driver of the vehicle. The cost of the program, so the cost of the program varies by vendor. I used our current red light camera vendor, Vera Mobility, to get their numbers. So this is based solely on them. We would have to go out to RFP for vendor verification, for vendor vetting, and that would determine cost to the city. So my proposal is 15 cameras. 15 cameras, 11 permanent cameras, 4 pedestal cameras to move around. At $7,000 per month per camera, it's a total cost of $105,000 per month. The employee cost, using special authorized limited authority civilian employees, so similar to a CSO, they would be authorized to write citations by the chief. Using their pay rate, $71.66 a month, the total cost for them would be $21,500, with a total cost of $126,500 a month. I'll go back to, because I'm sure there's questions on the financing. So there's a lot of communities that do this. I went to Fort Collins, myself and Captain Maldonado went to Fort Collins, looked at their program. They have 14 cameras. Then it's civilian run. They have 2 mobile cameras that they utilize. They were in their 30-day warning period when we were there. I reached out and got some updated data. Here's our updated data. So each camera generates about 30 citations a day. They have 7 areas they do. They do dual direction. 30-day month, that's generating 12,600 citations a month with our 14 cameras. $40 citation, if 100% pay rate, it's $504,000 per month that the program generates. Now, that's with 100%. The average pay rate according to Vera Mobility, is around 60%. Our red light camera violations, we average 78% right now. And we've had that program since 2015. So with a 60% pay rate, that's still $302,400 a month. So now we get into revenue. So here's a breakdown of what 15 cameras would incur. Now, what the statute states is that I'll go back. What Fort Collins did, and I really like what they did, they created a traffic safety fund. All revenue goes back into that fund for program cost, for
Excuse me, Mike, do you have an idea on how quickly
I've
we
got
can wrap
2
this
more
up?
slides, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Program cost, employee cost, and traffic safety projects, meaning Public Works can also get into that. So if they need funding for a different project for traffic safety, they would be able to dip into that money, any revenue generated. It won't go back into the general fund. That's what they did, and that's my proposal with you all. So right here is the pay rate. So things to consider. The RFP process, we would have to definitely go out for that. There's a lot of companies that are doing this now. The model traffic code, that would have to be an amended, which I've already been working with legal, working on, and I actually have a proposal on that one. Establish the traffic safety fund, as I said, so excess revenue goes into that, so it's only used for traffic safety. Establishing the traffic safety corridors, 1, 2, a variance of, or any additional, and biannual reporting up my chain of command for the performance of the program. Questions?
Okay, any questions, comments? I've got a couple real quick. You said 5 officers on the street, Mike, and you got, what do you need for it to make the full impact or the effect that you would like to see? How many officers are we talking, do you think we need?
3. And we can do it with
3 more, or?
For this program?
Yes.
3 civilians would be able to run that program.
Oh, great.
So that's why I used the 3 based on the CSO's pay. Civilians, they would be limited by what they can do. They would be able to write citations, testify in municipal court. and go out and serve the summons, but it can be run by 3. You'd be generating about, I think my figure is a little over 1,300 tickets a month for the first year. That tends to dwindle down when behavior changes. Once behavior changes, then we start to lower, but it'll never be 0.
If it was required, would they be able to testify?
Yes,
Oh, wow. And so the training would be handled by the police department, correct?
correct.
Okay, great.
There would be a limited, basically a limited commissioned civilian to be able to write citations.
Right, I had another question here. Councilman Martinez.
Yeah, Senator Box, I appreciate all the work that went into this. I know that this has been a topic of conversation for years now, it feels like. So, I went to school in Fort Collins, and I actually know of several intersections where they actually had the cameras. And I've always, I guess wondered why we didn't necessarily have the same thing in Pueblo. When we talked about it before, the barrier was cost, but it was also because we couldn't put it over a certain speed limit. Is that correct?
So the ones in Fort Collins that you're referring to when you were in college were all red light cameras.
Okay.
They recently changed due to the Senate bill came out in 2023. There was an update that came out June of 2024 that allowed them to change, and what they did was basically add that onto the red light cameras for speed and red light both. We would be able to do that too at Prairie and Northern. That would be one that we could do the exact same thing that Fort Collins did. But all those were red light cameras until February of this year.
The cameras that we currently have are all red light.
Correct. We have one red light camera.
Okay. Didn't Downtown Business Association and El Camino Neighborhood Association, didn't they buy cameras that were speed?
Those are just the,
Those are the flock cameras.
no,
The what?
Flock, the license plate readers.
license plate reader.
Got
But
it.
they also have the speed limit on Bridle Trail. That'll tell your speed, if you're going too fast for the speed limit. They also have those.
Okay. And the cameras that you're proposing are not red, how are they different than red light cameras?
So red light camera monitors the vehicle passing the stop bar. The speed camera actually is calibrated to calculate speed. The speed, anything
Got it.
11 miles an hour over, then a citation would be generated.
Okay. And I'm unclear about how council adopts the traffic safety corridors. Is that through ordinance?
I have not looked at this in detail, but I anticipate it would have to be through ordinance.
Okay.
It's not specified in the Senate bill. It just says the municipality has to adopt it.
Sure.
What Fort Collins did was by ordinance, yes.
Okay. And their ordinance passed, I'm assuming, their city council and
Wholeheartedly.
everything? Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Deputy Chief, Rod, you have anything else you want to add?
No, sir. I think it's a good idea, though. I think that our community needs some safer roadways, and I think this would change behavior. That's why I support it.
Mike, anything else you want to close with?
No, sir.
Okay, I think that's good. I think we'll go into it. Oh, Councilor Latino.
Yeah.
Wow, it's quiet over there.
So in terms of the east side, 4th Street, 8th Street, you going to be doing anything in that area?
4th Street would be one of the, that's on Tier 1. That's actually a prime locate, prime. If you look at the tiers, it is 96 all the way Thatcher, Lincoln. It stops downtown and picks up at Bradford all the way out to 47, basically, or Victory. I can't remember which Amarillo, it's after Amarillo,
Yeah.
so it should be Victory. So yeah, 4th Street is a huge problem. 8th Street has a dip in it at Reading, so people tend to slow down right there. But when you get down around La Crosse and those areas, and down by the school zone at Fountain, that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be, and we could put the pedestal there.
Okay.
Right now, it's classified as a residential area per se, even though it is a wider street.
Okay, yeah, that concerns me. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Councilor Ayala. President Ayala, excuse me.
Mr. Chair, I move that we go into, we're done, right?
Correct, we're done.
I
Thank you,
move that we
gentlemen.
go into executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators under CRS Section 24-6-402, Parent 4, Parent E, Parent I. And the following additional details are provided for identification purposes to discuss a potential PEDCO project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we're going to adjourn, and we should be back shortly. We're going to go into executive session.